Well, hey everyone, it's the Eurobandit here once again, and today I'm gonna do a review of my latest impulse buy, which is a 1957, I believe, Grundig Type 97S tube radio with the case made out of Bakelite rather than wood. This is also my very first tube radio review on this channel. It's not my very first tube radio. My very first tube radio is this Philips from the late 50s, which I've owned for over 10 years, probably 12 years. And short time after, I also bought this Grundig 4066, which is also from the late 50s. But for whatever reason, I never really made a video with a tube radio. I did feature the Grundig in one of my hi-fi collection videos from way back, but I never actually did a review of it. It actually needs work. So does the Philips, but the Philips is fully functional. All the bands work perfectly. But you know, it's close to 70 years old, so it definitely needs some service, some new capacitors, because it's all original, never actually been serviced. And yeah, for the most part, they just set all the radios set because I completely lost interest in radio. But now, recently I got into DXing, quite recently. I actually started using it quite often. But that's gonna be a separate video for the future. This is how it looks like. It's made in Western Germany for the Swedish market. Back in the day before globalization, every single radio producer, whether it was local or import, had to have all the controls as well as the tuning scale, the cities and everything else labeled in the local language, which in this case is Swedish. A lot of the radios, probably most of them from that time, had wooden cabinet, which this one doesn't have. It's all made out of Bakelite. And for those of you who don't know, Bakelite is basically a form of early plastic. You can make the plastic a million ways. You can make it strong, you can make it crap, you can make it, you know, however you want. A bit flexible, not so much flexible. Bakelite is actually really nice, and it's really holding up over the years compared to the modern plastic that came in the 70s and 80s, and you know, today's plastics are even worse. Even though it's plastic, it actually feels really premium. I really like the finish, and surprisingly, despite it being wiped 100 million times, it's still really nice and shiny. I didn't do anything to this radio other than cleaning it. These are the functions. It's all written in Swedish. This is long wave, short wave, medium wave, and UKV, which is the early form of FM. Basically, it's pretty much FM. However, it goes from 87 to 100 megahertz. As you can see, it's got its own scale, which is here. From what I know, in the USA, the FM band has been increased to 108 megahertz already in 1945. The reason why I'm telling you this is because a lot of you guys who are watching my channel are from the States. However, here in Europe, only in the 70s it actually started getting step by step expanded. In some countries it was up to 105, and then, you know, eventually in 1979 by international standard it got expanded to 108 megahertz all over Europe. This is a typical 1970s tuning scale, and as you can see, it goes from 88 to 108. This is the volume knob and basically the tuning knob for all the bands. Now, looking at it, you might think it's dual pot, which is not. Usually on a lot of radios, this secondary pot is for the tone. In case of this Philips, this one is the separate tuning knob for FM. However, on this particular model, it's just for show, both the volume and the tuning knob. And I confirmed that by removing the knob, and it's basically the same shaft that goes to the tuning as well as the volume pot. Looking at the sides, you might see two vents, one on this side and one on this other side, and you might think that they might be additional speakers. However, in case of this model, it's just for show. This wasn't an expensive model. It's quite a lower end model. Looking at my big Grundig, these are actually real speakers on the side, and you got the equalization as well as the selection for music or speech. Usually the side ones should be for speech and the middle one should be for music. However, this radio only has one speaker. So without further ado, let's turn it on. But before we do it, I'm going to remove the antenna for UKV or FM because on this radio it's pretty weak. And I'm gonna take this wire, which goes all around. It's basically my DX wire for this Philips radio. So basically I'm just going to insert it here, just like so. And now I'll turn it on by pressing the ultra shortwave button. I like the scale illumination, it's nice and simple, looks great. Gonna wait a few seconds. Alright. We're gonna tune around a bit. As you can see, once I turn it around, this tuning knob doesn't really work. In this case, it kinda works on FM, but on the other ones, if I change it to medium wave, nothing happens. It doesn't do anything. However, on FM, it kinda works, but you have to turn it a lot, which is quite annoying. This unfortunately is a very common fault on this era of Grundig radios. And the Germans being Germans, even back in the 50s, they made things more complicated than they had to be. It's got a complex clutch made from Bakelite, and it's got an abrasive material, which wears out over time, and basically it's not gonna work properly or at all. So let's tune around the FM band a bit. The sound quality, it sounds rather tinny, which you might say, yeah, but it's a small radio. But then again, the thing is, it's almost 70 years old, so it would need to be restored. All the capacitors and stuff replaced and, recalibrated. I believe that it has even more potential to sound better. And usually these tube radios sound great. And the speaker isn't tiny, mind you, it's actually quite big. In my opinion, if this thing would get serviced, it would have way more potential.
Du lyssnar på P2, Sveriges Radio.
Bunch of modern junk.
Jag heter Amanda Romare, jag är författare och jag sommarpratar i P1. För jag har liksom också vuxit upp med mamma som går och klipper gräsmattan i trädgården. Och pappa när han liksom alltid la sig i vår saccosäck.
This is an equalization for music and speech. However, it doesn't seem to do anything. And I think it might be stuck in the speech mode.
Vad ska du snacka om då? Är det lite kring det där?
Jag ska snacka om utbildningen. Jag har ju gjort, när jag var och tävlade i Spanien så var vi i Valencia.
Fairtrade eller Rainforest Alliance för en större smak.
Första gången som du ska falla ner i gråt kär.
Alright, nothing on 87. Here are some of the cities. Droitwich, which is BBC Radio 4 at this moment, which is gonna close this month, unfortunately. So yeah, basically Göteborg, Bergen, Norway, Berlin, BBC. Of course, all these are outdated, so to speak. If you press the long wave and short wave selectors at the same time, just like so, it says gram, which is gramophone, which basically means a record player. You can actually connect a record player and use it as an amplifier. To turn it off, you just press the front button, which is basically off. This is how the back side of it looks like. Model is Typ 97S. S should stand for Sweden. It's got 10 circuits for FM and 7 circuits for AM. And this is basically the importer that imported this radio to Sweden. Here's a connection for an extra speaker on 3 ohm. This is the connection for the gramophone or the record player. You can see the symbol right here, and this is the ground for it. Antenna connections. The integrated one is for the ultra shortwave. Without further ado, let's remove this cover. This flathead screw is what's holding it in place. Let's see if I can do this with the camera in my hand. Pull it outwards. No, I can't. I'll be back. This is how the inside of it looks like. I'll shine the light so you can see it better. It's extremely dusty. As you can see, all the capacitors are original. And as you can see, it's got a rather large speaker for its size. Here are all the tubes. I turn it back on so you can see how they're glowing. Really nice. I like the soft glow of the tubes. It's got one lamp for the scale, and it's more than enough. It basically slides out for service. That's one thing I like about this era of electronics. They're really easy to service. Judging by all the components, this thing has never been serviced. Here it's also got the magic eye. Here's a quick look at the underside of it, as you can see. This was a review of a 1957 West German Grundig radio. If you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more similar videos with tube radios and whatnot, let me know in the comment section below, and I'm most likely going to make more similar videos. Despite my main focus being 70s and 80s home electronics and cars, it's nice to keep the variety going. So with all that being said, hope you liked this video. If you did, why not thumbs up, check out my other videos, and if you like what I'm doing, I'll subscribe, and I'll definitely see you in my next video. Cheers and 73.